Beneath the ancient hills of Wales there is a secret, a forgotten world whispered in fireside tales and carved into myth, a place the living were never meant to see. This is Annwn, the Welsh Underworld, not a realm of punishment, but of eternal beauty, wild magic and chilling danger, a kingdom where death is only the beginning and where time flows differently. And here's the secret no one tells you. Annwn may be more than myth. It may predate Christianity. Some say it's a real place, hidden behind the veil, waiting to be found. Today we'll uncover Annwn's secrets, trace its roots through Greek and Egyptian underworlds, explore the Black Cauldron of resurrection, and ask ourselves, could it all be real? Welcome to the Underworld of Wales. Please remember to like, share and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification so you never miss out on more videos from Dark Wales Tours. Across the world, every ancient culture tells of a place beneath or beyond, a shadow realm, a land of the dead, or a hidden paradise. But what do we mean when we say underworld? It's not always hell. It might be a mirror world, a liminal space between death and rebirth. Some cultures saw it as a spiritual waiting room, others as a place of judgment or of eternal reward or punishment. To many ancient people, the underworld wasn't just a scary story. It was a real place, just below the surface or beyond the final breath. It was where your soul went after death, where your ancestors whispered from the dark, where monsters guarded gates and where gods ruled in silence. The word underworld literally means the world beneath this one. But don't confuse it with hell or the devil. That's a much later idea. The original underworlds weren't always places of punishment. They were destinations, realms, often as complex as the world above. Some believe the dead journeyed there for rest, others for rebirth. To the Norse it was Helheim, to the Aztecs Mictlan, to the Greeks Hades, and to the Welsh it was Annwn. But the underworld isn't just a physical location, it's also symbolic. It represents the unknown, the subconscious, grief and transformation. Carl Jung, the psychologist, described the underworld in myth as the place we confront our own shadow, where we look at our own fears, our flaws, our truth. In other words, the underworld is both a destination and a mirror. And here's what's truly eerie. Every ancient civilization had an underworld, even one separated by oceans and millennia. But why is that? Is it just coincidence or collective memory? Did early humans all imagine the same thing when someone died? Or were they tapping into something deeper, something real? Whatever the answer, one thing is clear. Underworlds have shaped how we see death, divinity and the unknown. And no underworld is more haunting or more overlooked than Wales's own realm of the dead. Wales's mysterious Annwn wasn't born in a vacuum. All across the ancient world, people imagined hidden realms that lay just beyond life. Silent worlds shaped by fears, hopes and beliefs about the soul. But let's step back for a moment and take a look at three of the most influential visions of the underworld: Greek, Egyptian and Christian. Each reveals something profound, and each connects in unexpected ways to the Welsh Annwn. In Greek myth, the underworld was not ruled by a demon, but a god, Hades, the stern but fair brother of Zeus and Poseidon. To get there, the dead would cross the river Styx, ferried by Charon, who demanded payment in the form of a coin placed on the tongue of the corpse. Once across, the soul faced judgment. Some were sent to Elysium, a paradise of heroes. Others endured Tartarus, a place of torment for the wicked. But most simply wandered in the fields of asphodel, not punished, not rewarded, just forgotten. The Greek underworld wasn't evil, it was inevitable. Death was law, and Hades was order, a cosmic balance. To the ancient Egyptians, death was a perilous journey through the Duat, a vast shifting world filled with gods, traps, and nightmarish beasts. The soul had to pass through 12 gates, overcome chaos, and reach the Hall of Truth. There, Anubis, the jackal-headed god, would weigh the person's heart against the feather of Muat, the goddess of justice and harmony. If the heart was too heavy with sin, it was devoured by a beast called Ammit. But if it was pure, the soul was reborn in the field of reeds, a perfect mirror of life, but without pain or death. To the Egyptians, the underworld was a test, but also a chance, a journey of judgment and redemption. In Christian theology, the underworld evolved into a binary system, heaven above and hell below, no longer a place of mystery, but of moral consequence. Your eternal fate was decided by how you lived. Sin meant fire and suffering in hell. Faith and virtue meant peace and paradise. It was a radical shift from the murky ambiguity of older myths to a clear-cut system of divine justice. But underneath that framework, the old fears lingered. The concepts of demons, of judgment, of an unseen world beneath our feet, it's all there, rebranded, retold, but rooted in something ancient. So what unites these visions of the afterlife? Across cultures, time and geography, we see the same patterns. A realm beneath or beyond this one, a ruler or a judge of the dead, some kind of journey or a trial, a division between reward and punishment, and a link between the world of the living and the world of the dead. Each culture paints the underworld in different colours, but the outline remains the same. I hope you're enjoying our journey to the other side so far. If you feel like supporting the channel even further, you can now send a super thanks. It's just a small way to help us keep exploring these dark and fascinating stories, and every contribution, no matter how small, is truly appreciated. Absolutely no pressure whatsoever to do this. The most important thing is you are here right now. So grateful to have you here, just watching, commenting and sharing in the mystery with us. Thank you so much for being here, but now back to the video. And so we turn our heads back to Wales, to a myth older than Rome, older than the church. A place so strange, so haunting, that it blurs the boundary between paradise and nightmare. This is Annwn, the Welsh Underworld. But forget everything you think you know. This is not hell. This is not the afterlife as punishment. This is something entirely different. Annwn is often translated as the deep or the very deep place. But in Welsh lore, it's not deep in the sense of underground. It's deep in the way dreams are, hidden, liminal, just beyond the edges of perception. It's a place of endless feasting, perfect weather, eternal youth, and danger. Some versions describe it as a paradise, others as a trap, where time stands still and escape comes at a terrible price. Sometimes it lies beneath the earth, sometimes across the sea, sometimes it appears when the mists roll in. And Annwn has a ruler. His name is Annwn. A god, a fae, a king, nobody is quite sure. In the Mabinogi, we meet Annwn in a tale where he swaps places with a mortal prince, Pwyll, and trusts him to defeat his rival King Halfdan in single combat. But Annwn is no villain. He is noble, mysterious, but deadly if crossed. The first sign that Annwn is near is not a vision, it's a sound, a howling. The Cwn Annwn, the spectral hounds that hunt at night. They are not evil, but they are feared. They guard the boundaries between this world and the next. To hear them is to know death walks close behind. And time itself is said to be a trickster in Annwn. In some tales, a man spends a single night there, only to return and find centuries have passed. In others, he vanishes for years, then returns untouched by age. This is not a land you can map. It's a state of being, a place where dream, death, memory and desire all collide. And unlike the Christian hell, or even Hades, it isn't a place of judgment. There are no sinners, no saints, no scales to balance. It's a place of mystery, of transformation, perhaps a metaphor for the soul's journey, or a way to understand grief and where we go when we dream of those we've lost. Even now, some say the entrances still exist. The Lake Llyn Fan Fach, for example, or Cadair Idris are often mentioned as such gateways. These aren't just legends. These are places you can visit, to walk through, perhaps even disappear in. To understand Annwn is to understand the Welsh imagination, a mind that sees poetry in shadows, beauty in silence, and magic where others see mist. Annwn is not a place you enter by dying, it's a place you enter by believing. And in the heart of Annwn, beneath mountains older than memory, stands a cauldron. Ancient, silent, overflowing with magic too powerful to control. It is called the Cauldron of Rebirth, and it may be the most powerful object in all of Welsh mythology. In Celtic lore, cauldrons were more than cooking pots. They were vessels of divine transformation. They could heal, they could reveal the future, and some, like this one, could bring the dead back to life. But not as they were. The dead returned, mute, obedient, and changed. This was no gentle resurrection. This was a power that defied nature and demanded a price. One of the earliest and most terrifying mentions of the Black Cauldron appears in the second branch of the Mabinogi. The giant king, Bran the Blessed, receives the cauldron as a wedding gift from the Irish, but in the war that follows, the Irish use it to resurrect their fallen soldiers. Each time they fall, they are thrown into the cauldron and rise again, stronger and unstoppable. To stop them, Bran's own men sacrifice everything. Ultimately, the cauldron is destroyed from within by a man who climbs inside, giving his life to end the curse. But the Cauldron of Rebirth didn't stay buried in ancient lore. It was reborn in modern fiction. In Lloyd Alexander's Chronicles of Prydain, which is heavily inspired by Welsh myth, it becomes the central artefact of darkness. In Disney's The Black Cauldron, that were based on the books, it transforms into an object of horror capable of raising a deathless army. Even today, the trope lives on in video games, fantasy epics, in shows like The Witcher, Game of Thrones. Wherever you see armies that cannot die, relics that twist life and death, you're hearing echoes of Annwn's cauldron. I have recently read Stephen King's Fairy Tale, which I immensely enjoyed, and whilst reading, I felt something eerily familiar beneath the surface. The descent into another world, a kingdom beneath our own, cursed and dreamlike, and a magic that walks the line between healing and horror. In Fairy Tale, a boy discovers a hidden realm, Empis, ruled by a broken magic, haunted by silence, and reshaped by grief. It echoes Annwn in unsettling ways. There's no heaven or hell here, just a shadow world that feels ancient, familiar, and alive. And then there's the object at the centre of it all, a well of resurrection, a power that can heal or corrupt, much like the cauldron of rebirth. It's as if King didn't just write a fantasy, he tapped into something older, a myth buried in the collective unconscious, a modern door to an ancient story. If you haven't read this epic journey, I highly recommend it. Maybe a book club could be on the horizon. Just let me know if this is something you'd like to see and be part of. But the Cauldron of Rebirth asks a question as old as myth itself. Should we bring the dead back at all? In Welsh tales, resurrection is never clean. You can restore the body, but the soul is another matter. Maybe that's the real warning behind the story, that trying to reverse death only invites another kind of darkness. Today, the Cauldron of Rebirth is more than a myth. It's a metaphor for power beyond control, for the ancient longing to defeat death, no matter the cost. And in the hills of Wales, where the mists still rise, some say the cauldron isn't gone, only hidden and waiting. So we've explored the mysteries of Annwn, but now comes the real question. Could the underworld actually exist? Some scholars argue that the underworld isn't a place at all, but a psychological journey, a symbolic descent into the self, into grief, trauma, death, and spiritual awakening. A descent into the unconscious where we face the shadow part of ourselves. In myth, this journey appears again and again, from Orpheus to Odysseus, from Dante to Bran, so maybe Annwn isn't under our feet, it's behind our eyes, the realm we pass through in dreams, or when we lose someone, or when we lose ourselves. But not everyone believes the underworld is just symbolic. There are people throughout history who claim to have physically entered another realm, as we have explored in other videos. In medieval Welsh tales, travellers who stepped into mounds or crossed into fairy rings would vanish, only to return decades later, having believed they were gone just one night. The cave at Cragadinnis, for example, is said to be a portal where King Arthur and his men sleep, awaiting a time of crisis. Some claim to have found it, only to flee in terror from voices and lights coming from underground. Even in the 20th and 21st centuries, hikers across Wales report strange losses of time after wandering into mists, cave systems, or old paths. These stories are hard to verify, of course, mysterious, easy to dismiss, until you experience one yourself, of course. Science doesn't talk about Annwn or Tartarus, but it does talk about hidden dimensions. According to string theory, there may be many more dimensions, most invisible to human perception. In quantum mechanics, particles can exist in multiple places at once. In cosmology, the theory of parallel universes suggests other versions of reality may exist right beside us. So ask yourselves, if other dimensions are real, if time can bend, if the universe is stranger than we have ever imagined, what's not to say Annwn isn't one of those hidden worlds? Maybe it isn't a cave or a land beyond the sea. Maybe it's what happens when we dream too deeply, when we grieve too hard, when we leave our body in ritual prayer or death. Whether it's Hades, Duat, Hell or Annwn, every culture dreams of the world beyond this one. Not because we want to die, but because we want to understand what death means, what life means. So, is the underworld real? In myth, in mind, in matter? Here's the truth. No one really knows what lies beneath the surface of myth. We can explore, we can wonder, we can listen to old stories and feel the pull of something ancient, but in the end, we'll all find out for ourselves when the mists rise for us. Thank you so much for watching today. If you felt the chill of Annwn in this story, please drop your theories and experiences in the comments below. Always love to hear what you guys think and any stories that you may have. Please remember to like and subscribe. That really means the world to us, helps us to grow this channel, keep bringing you more chilling tales of history and the unknown. So that would be much appreciated, guys. And remember, we should all embrace these legends, because one day we'll all open the last door, and what we find may not be so unfamiliar. Until next time, be careful out there.